Children giving birth to children. Some teenagers have had a piece of their youth torn from them by people they knew and even trusted. In Namayumba Town Council, Wakiso District, this 13-year-old we will call Brenda gave birth 3 weeks ago. She stands at crossroads of childhood and early parenthood, a situation shared by some teenagers. Her journey to motherhood was a traumatic one. At a tender age of 12, Brenda's life took a tragic turn when she was raped by a worker at her uncle's residence during school holidays.
My uncle works in Kalangala and went with my elder sibling. I was left at home with that worker who raped me at night. And my uncle's home is distant from other homes.
Following the incident, Brenda, oblivious to her pregnancy, fell ill during the school term until her mother discovered her condition at 6 months. The girl, emotionally and physically unprepared for motherhood, is filled with bitterness and hatred. However, with support from her family, she is slowly learning to love her child.
I never liked the child because she is an obstruction to my studies.
She has persevered in her studies, determined to complete her primary education, but with her final exams fast approaching, she's grappling with the challenge of balancing motherhood and school. The baby's father vanished. Sadly, Brenda's story is not an isolated case. In some parts of Namayumba, teenage girls carrying babies as they head to hospitals for vaccination visits has become a common sight. This teenager, who we will call Joan, got pregnant last year when she was 14 and in senior 1. She gave birth in August this year.
When school resumed, I told my mom that I was pregnant. She told me to look for the man who impregnated me because my father is harsh.
Not wanting to get pregnant again, she decided to experiment with contraceptives, although she admits that as recently as a few months ago, she had never heard of them. Joan joins a growing number of sexually active adolescents who are using contraceptives to prevent unwanted pregnancies. However, these teenagers often have to deal with the side effects of using contraceptives.
I have spent a year without seeing my period since I started using contraceptives.
The debate on allowing sexually active teenagers to use contraceptives is fierce. Religious leaders in particular strongly oppose the use of contraceptives, including condoms, among young people. They emphasize abstinence, condemning sex outside wedlock as a sin.
Abstinence is still appreciated by a number of people in this country. We may wonder whether these countries still have virgins. They do. They do, because a child is still a child. And constitutionally, a person is an adult by 18. But if you go up to the 15 years age, it means these young ones may actually not benefit as we think, but could also confront other problems.
The rising number of defilement cases has complicated the narrative of the conservatives in our society.
If you start talking about that young people should actually abstain from sex, you need to look at circumstances that are surrounding them. If you young people that are being violated or sexually assaulted, for example, they don't make that choice. So the assumption to say that all young people should abstain from sex is working on an assumption that this young person has to make a choice to actually engage in sex.
So I know there are some people who are already thinking that it's very easy to do contraceptives. It's not very easy even for adults, and there are also people who don't believe in family planning. There are many scares and myths about family planning. So even if you push a policy, I want to assure people that it's not going to be very easy to get every child on a contraceptive. There are also side effects.
Sometimes the victims of defilement are as young as 12. Stakeholders question whether abstinence is a practical solution, considering that these youngsters have already been robbed of their innocence.
A young person who is 14 years, if she walks, or 15 years, if she walks into a facility and she's denied a service, that person is maybe they've already had their first child. Chances are high that they're going to have a repeat teenage pregnancy. Should we still insist that such a young person abstains from sex?
The Ministry of Health has maintained that the provision of contraceptives to teenagers should be a case-by-case decision rather than a universally approved policy. Uganda's Demographic and Health Survey report released this year paints a grim picture.
If a girl is working in a bar attendant, and she gets pregnant, and for God forbid she doesn't die and she survives, and then goes up the same setting, the same environment, chances are very high that she'll get pregnant. And those are the kind of conversations we are having now, to say, what do you do for this child? And it's a case-by-case situation.
Experts argue that the fight against teenage pregnancy transcends contraception and involves poverty, parental neglect, and other society challenges.
People produce very big numbers. Why shouldn't they be taught to only do what they can afford and also be responsible for it? And there should be deterrent measures, laws that guide the parents in that respect.
Some voices advocate for the implementation of the National Sexuality Education Framework, which aims to provide young people with comprehensive sexuality education. However, the framework faces resistance as it was banned shortly after its launch in 2016.
But once the policy is launched, and for that matter the strategy and the framework rather, to be able to implement we need the tools. So as the government was working on the process, some people moved fast. So we thought that no, we need to come back and align to the framework we implemented. You can't have NGOs implementing something smallly and so some piecemeal work. So
rightly, we agreed with the Minister of Education that this issue of sexuality education is age appropriate, must be done accordingly, not openly. Yes, because we knew very well that it is accompanied by a number of challenges.
The advent of the smartphones through which teenagers easily access explicit content is another concern. As parents are busier than ever, children are left to navigate these treacherous waters on their own, often sharing inappropriate materials with peers.
Children carry the materials from their own homes, from homes of parents who never existed there. Most of them are more traveling than in their homes. And therefore, children access those materials with no limit.
While the debate rages, some girls have ended up as statistics in the teenage pregnancy rates due to rape and sexual violence. Civil society organizations are calling for strengthened laws to protect young girls and ensure that those responsible face the full force of the law. The nation remains divided on whether abstinence is the ultimate solution or if contraceptives should be given to sexually active teenagers. Norbert at Kunda, NTV Weekend Edition.